Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Market Down Podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by James Chisanti, Chad Big Bad Johnson, and Dan Hernandez. We were off last week, so we got a lot to get to, so we're going to get right into it. Big news of the last couple of weeks, obviously, has been the WWE releases. There was a laundry list of superstars that were let go by the company, and quite a few big names, including Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, Nia Jax, Mia Yim, Scarlett, Ember Moon, Oni Larkinen, and many more. Now, there's a lot of people here. There's a lot of stuff to get to. James, what do you think about WWE once again having a round of mass layoffs? And who do you think stood out of the people that they ended up letting go?
I'm obviously sad that anybody gets fired. I'm not surprised anymore. With this most recent group, this makes 71 releases this calendar year. That is atrocious. That's just awful. And I don't know how a company can mismanage talent the way WWE is. It's weird because once upon a time, if somebody got released from WWE, it was this very sad affair. It was this very, oh no, I hope these guys are going to be all right kind of event. Now, I don't think there is that sadness anymore just because there are so many places to work. I I think so many of the talent released have the ability to be big stars no matter where they go. Uh, Keith Lee is obviously probably the top of most people's lists. Karrion Kross, whether you liked him or didn't like him, and that's a very big topic in itself, he was still a star in his own right. You know, he's a former Impact World Champion. He's a former NXT champion. Those are accolades that should be celebrated. And WWE couldn't book him right on his debut on the main roster. And at this point, again, I'm not sad that these guys get released for the most part. The only person I'm sad about getting released is Oni Larkin because Oni rules. But I'm sad for WWE at this point. I'm sad that WWE doesn't know how to handle talent the way they used to. And I think this is a sign of how they're going to manage themselves going forward. I wasn't even shocked when the releases were coming because at this point, I think there's just a cycle. There's a pattern that's happening with how they release people. And if your name's not Roman Reigns, if your name's not Becky Lynch, if your name's not Seth Rollins, maybe, anybody could go on the chopping block. And I don't think everybody's going to get signed to big places. Like, I think Keith Lee is probably going to go to AEW, and he's probably going to be the megastar that he was destined to be. I don't know where the hell Karrion Kross goes. And yeah, I'm so desensitized at this point, and that's heartbreaking to hear when people lose their job.
Yeah, seeing everybody here losing their job is rough. And we kind of talk about it in a cold business way when going through all these releases, because we're almost happy because these people to us are stuck in WWE and they're bullshit. So when they get released, we're like, yes, they're free. They can go somewhere. But at the same time, like, a person just got fired. So that obviously sucks. And we don't mean to make light of that situation. It's just, we want to see these people do better. And it appears that they could obviously do better outside of WWE. I think Kross and Lee are the two most obvious examples of WWE and their booking failing these people. I'll tackle Kross here because I'm going to throw it to Danny after, since I know he hates him, and we'll probably want to talk a little more about Keith Lee. But like you said, James, they failed Karrion Kross the day he came up. The man came in pre-packaged with a really cool gimmick on an insane win streak. If I'm not mistaken, he was undefeated in NXT. He had Scarlett with him, which, I mean, it's just going to get anybody over anyway. And he had this really cool mystique and aura about him, and he comes in and he loses to Jeff Hardy basically cheating. Now, I know Jeff got his theme song back that week, but I mean, come on. That only goes so far. And then they changed his gimmick, 3 more times before he ended up being released? It was just a complete and utter failure to build a character that was already built. So I don't understand it. Now, Danny, you just don't like Cross, but I think you didn't even like him back in NXT. So, I mean, you could talk about what do you think about him, but I also want to hear your thoughts on Lee, since I know you're a big Keith Lee guy.
But before Danny speaks about Cross, I love his face every time somebody says he doesn't like Cross, because it's not he gets annoyed that we say that, because I know the truth is it's not that he doesn't like Cross, he could just not care any less. Right. It's apathy, which is somehow worse.
That's fair.
Wow, James, you know me so well in such a short span of time. But yes, that is correct. I really just feel absolutely nothing about Cross. But like you said, Rev, his main roster run is, I think, beyond. It's not even the perfect example of WWE's mismanagement of talent. Like, that is above and beyond even their norm and their standard of fucking people up. Like, yeah, they fuck people up all the time, but barely ever is it as bad as they fucked up Cross. See, I don't care about Cross because I stopped watching NXT by the time Cross got there, so I had no attachment to him coming up to the main roster. So all I know of Cross is his main roster run, and it was fucking garbage. So I'm like, oh, this guy sucks. Like, I know he doesn't actually suck, but I'm just like, yeah, I'm only seeing. I don't like when he's on TV because it's never good. It's never been good since he's been on Raw. So I never cared about that, about him being on TV. And then Scarlett, especially, she was never there with them on Raw. So, you know, it's hard for me to not care. It's hard for me to care about them as characters, not about them as people getting released. I obviously sympathize with that. Yeah, with Keith Lee, I don't get it. Because as much as Cross, I think, is a good example of what WWE likes in wrestlers, and he seemed like someone that they would love and that he would get a good push on Raw. Like, Keith Lee is that, turned up to God knows what level. Like, Keith Lee has such a natural charisma that you can't teach, and he has one of those butter voices that you just want to hear the guy talk, even if it's about the stupidest thing. Like, I want to hear this guy talk. He has such a relaxing voice. And they barely gave him any promo time. They started him off strong. He got a big win against Randy Orton, and then nothing. And then he lost the title match to Drew, and then he was gone for a while. Granted, it was because of health reasons, so, you know, you can't blame company or him for that. Like, that was a actual, life or death kind of situation for him. But he comes back as a surprise in his home state, and he loses a match. And, you know, this is 2-3 months, 4 months after Cross came up and lost his debut match. So I think they should have learned the lesson that you can't just have people debut or re-debut and lose. It's not a good look. Hell, that's what happened to Cedric Alexander. And let's be real here, is the highlight of his career was being a janitor tagging with Roman Reigns. Like, don't get me wrong, Hurt Business was great, but I think 10 years from now, that'll be the only thing that people remember Alexander for. But Keith Lee is going to be fine. He's one that it's just baffling that he's gone and that they could mess him up. But like James said, he will be a star. He can go to AEW and be one of the biggest stars there, literally and you know, metaphorically. But how great would it be if he just came in and freaking shoulder blocked Adam Cole back into the crowd? There's so much good stuff waiting there. But I'm not gonna lie, one other person I actually want to mention, it's so weird, is Nia Jax, because when they released Braun, it's like, bro, that's the most WWE person I've ever seen in my life. Like, what? You're releasing them? And 6 episodes ago, 7, 8 episodes ago on this podcast, we were talking about Nia and Charlotte's shoot fight and how unsafe Nia is and how much Nia, how many people want Nia to just be released or to go back to NXT and actually learn how to wrestle. And it's they found a way to release Nia Jax to the point where I'm like, oh, you even messed that up. Like, I kind of feel bad for her now. Like, you know, she was taking time off for mental health reasons and asked for an extension and never got an answer and got released. I'm like, that's.
I think that was her answer.
Yeah, that's hey, you take all the time you need. Apparently, was their answer to that.
At least 90 more days.
Yikes.
And it's like, I don't see Nia going anywhere else. I don't see Nia going to AEW. I don't see Nia going to Impact or NWA, anywhere. Like, I think she was a WWE person and she could only thrive in the WWE. So I think she goes back to modeling, or like maybe she tries to get into Hollywood. I don't see her. She doesn't go back to WWE. I don't see her going anywhere else. It's just weird. Also, we never got a Becky Lynch Nia match after she broke her nose. It's kind of weird. Seems like a thing they would have done right away. But
I'm more than okay with that. I just keep Becky away from anybody like Nia, please.
Yeah. We don't want Becky getting
like
hurt
heartbroken over it. So
agreed, though. It is a little weird. I do want to say the thing that people will remember most about Cedric Alexander for the next 10 years will be that Cruiserweight Classic.
Hire Cedric.
Yeah, I mean, they literally got him hired.
No, that's what a niche group of people remember it for. But most in WWE video packages, if he's even worthy of getting one 10 years from now, it's going to be him being a janitor. I like Cedric Alexander. I know it sounds harsh, but it's like, he's good, but in WWE's world, he's not good. So,
I mean, that's fair. Like, yeah, he's a really good wrestler, but you're right. Like, in terms of like what he did on the main roster, it wasn't a lot, which is unfortunate because I really liked him. And I mean,
he wasn't even a good 24/7 champion. Like, he couldn't even do that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, to mention a couple other guys from the Cruiserweight Classic, Grand Metalik and Lince Dorado were both released too. And after that class, I thought Grand Metalik was going to be huge, and they did jack shit with him. So
he was one of the people that asked for his release, right?
Yes, he asked for his release, and I believe Lince Dorado asked for his release as well. But I don't blame them for wanting to get out of it. They weren't doing anything. And Metalik, I thought when Metalik made that Cruiserweight Classic final, I thought he was one of the best wrestlers on the planet. I think I read somewhere that one of the big guys, like it was like Meltzer or Alvarez or somebody, said that like it was like when Okada was in TNA, and like they just wasted him. And if that's the truth, I hope he goes somewhere and fucking wreck shit. So, all right, but Chad, I swear to God, I haven't been ignoring you.
No, you're good, man.
It felt like it. It felt like you were.
No.
But what stood out to you from these releases?
For me, in the words of our dear Jim Drake, the boy wonder, I'm so desensitized, man. This is like, it's almost like every other month with this bullshit. But I like to take a minute, honestly, to shine light on the women who've lost their jobs. I think like this, WWE, why do you hate women? And I would like to know, why do you hate women? They just repackaged Ember Moon. She's been gone from injury. She's come back. She's overcome 1,000 things. She's been wrestling her ass off. She goes better than almost any woman on the main roster. Now she's out of a job. B-Fab just got called up to SmackDown with Hit Row. It's a stable. It's brilliant. We're all buying into this now. We're getting it. She's let go without another word.
B-Fab just signed a contract
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago, and she's gone.
It's like the most befuddling, mind-boggling shit I can think of, that you would call somebody up to the main roster, the main stage, and try to release them silently while they're thriving and they're supposed to be one of the biggest stables on SmackDown. It makes absolutely no sense to me. I'm with Danny. I mean, we all get why they released Nia Jax, but I don't get why they released Nia Jax. I'm with Danny. She's absolutely a WWE superstar. I can't see her anywhere else. I mean, it's good and bad with that. Then we go over to Carrion, who was killing shit on NXT. You bring him up to the main roster without one of the best managers in NXT, Scarlett. Then you secretly release her when he's on the main stage, when you already have this great character that you're building. Well, that's built, like Rev said earlier. He's already built. He has this mystique and allure that's awesome. And we look forward to him on the main roster. Out of nowhere, he's gone. The biggest upset and letdown, I almost don't want to watch WWE for a while, is Keith Lee. I think that is utterly disgusting. Disgusting. He also just got repackaged as Bearcat Lee, and now he's in the wind. I mean, he's going to thrive wherever he goes, however, but it's stupidity to me. It's all stupid. WWE hates women. Next.
I was saying, a lot of people want to get in here. Get at it, Danny.
Because Chad made me realize a lot of things. With yeah, I've lost all my interest in Hit Row. Like, it's gone. Like, because I didn't watch NXT, and now that it's like, oh, you're already changing things about them, I'm over it. I can't get invested. So I'm done with Hit Row. Sorry, Top Dollar. Max Caster's a better rapper than you anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Ember Moon, oh my God, what a missed opportunity. And her injury was because she was chasing the 24/7 title and she stepped down too hard. What a terrible way to get injured. What a waste of your talent to get injured. Terrible. That's another person I absolutely want AEW, like, immediately. I don't want all the women to go to AEW, but Ember Moon is like #1 on that list. And then I want to throw in, because you said, why is WWE hate women? How can we talk about that without talking about Taiya Valkyrie, who got released for being too old? She's younger than AJ Styles by like 5-6 years. Like, it's, oh my God. Like, and again, that's a person who I've only seen a limited amount of, but I was like interested. I was like, okay, like, that's someone who does not look 38. Honestly, she looks maybe like 32, but like,
star.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I think, it's like one where it's like, bro, you're gonna do that, and then you're gonna probably gonna ask John Morrison to do some stupid shit on TV like the next week. You're gonna, like, oh God, why do they hate women, Chad? It's a great. I hope they answer you, man. I hope they do.
And it's crazy too, because so many of these women fit the roles that we know WWE loves. Like, let's not even say WWE, because we know who it is. It's Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis. The man who first met his future stepdaughters by judging them in a bikini contest. Right? John Laurinaitis loves these model-esque women. That's apparently what WWE is looking for now. I don't know if you guys heard this, but the new edict supposedly going around, they're only hiring women if they're younger than, initially the rumor was 25, now it's 23. They're only looking to hire young women because they don't want wrestlers. They want pretty, beautiful women. And
then why'd they release Eva Marie?
Eva Marie, which
another
is, oh
WWE as fuck person. Like
I actually wouldn't be shocked if we see Eva come back at some point. I know she was off TV because she was filming a movie, but why? Just furlough her, put her on like a hiatus for a bit, freeze the contract until she comes back. But regardless, Taiya Valkyrie actually breaks my heart because she wanted to get to WWE so badly and she got screwed. But man,
I hope she goes back to Impact and kills.
I think she would. Oh, God.
Later, we're gonna, maybe if it comes up, we were talking about Raw earlier before this. We were talking about like, oh, it's refreshing that Becky Lynch is going to feud with Liv Morgan. It's someone different. And it's like, all the potential people that Becky, Charlotte, Bianca, like Sasha, any of these people could have feuded with have just been released. Like, there's so, like, we've had to see Bianca and Becky fight each other like fucking 5 times in a month and a half, because who else are they going to face? Rhea and Nikki have literally no one to face right now. Like, and they keep releasing women when they need women. It's crazy. Like Chad said, why do they hate women? I don't get it. I'm not letting that go. It's a great question, Chad, and we need answers.
It's interesting. The stuff with Hit Row reminds me of Sanity. When
Oh my God,
debuted,
yes.
they didn't have Nikki Cross go with them.
Mm-hmm.
and then that group just fell apart right away. And I think the ceiling for Hit Row is higher than Sanity's ever was, but it feels eerily similar. And other ripples that I keep feeling are, and this was actually raised to me by my girlfriend, who I couldn't see it, but it's kind of interesting. I know we're skipping over a little bit to Raw, and I'll try to keep it on point, but Doudrop now is turning heel, it looks like, in this feud with Bianca Belair. And my girlfriend said, wow, so they fired Nia Jax to make Doudrop the new Nia Jax?
Oh my God.
and like, there's no like, there's no body shaming here. This isn't like, we're not making fun of anything, but it feels very much like WWE said, we fired our monstrous woman, so now we need to have another one. And
and it goes against all the booking of Doudrop lately as this bubbly baby face,
Emma,
you know, with the name Doudrop.
But weird how that happened, the timing, right? Weird how that happened. But we do need to talk about one of the reported reasons, supposedly, all these people were, at least a few of these people were released. And supposedly, what was that?
I said, yes.
Supposedly, it's because at least a few of them, I heard the number was at least 5, were unvaccinated. And I don't need to talk about, that is not my position to talk about whether or not people should be vaccinated or not. I am, but I do think it's interesting to have released people for not having gotten vaccinated without reportedly, not telling them that they should have been vaccinated in the first place. It feels, I don't know if this story is true. I don't know if it's being blown up, but it feels like they were just looking for an excuse for some people.
It almost feels like part of it, because I remember when that came out, it was after the initial report that where Johnny Ace came out and said that, oh, these were all due to budget cuts. These were all due to budget cuts. So it
was weirdly good. That was
really
like
good.
Weirdly good.
Spot on.
Say people power. Say people power.
People power.
Oh shit.
Does that hurt?
No, limited fake Johnny Ace, everybody. Anyway, that report about the COVID vaccinations came out after his statement saying everything was due to budget cuts, which was obviously shortly after their earnings meeting, which, by the way, apparently every earnings meeting is the predecessor to everyone getting fired, which is weird. Let's tell everybody how much money we made and then make budget cuts despite the fact we're making hand over fist. So I could totally see it being an instance where they put that out to try to change some of the narrative around all these releases, at least in some small part. But it's hard to tell because, like you said, James, even if it is true, they never mentioned to any of the talent who were getting released that it was because they were unvaccinated. So it's a really difficult position to go from. Well, hey, welcome back. A bit of an awkward transition there. We just had to take out everything Danny just said. But let's move along here to some of the things that are also being affected by these firings from WWE. And that is surprisingly Xavier Woods' Up, Up, Down, Down channel. A lot of news has come around about this now because Xavier has lost a lot of the characters and content creators that have joined him on the channel. Samoa Joe was one of them. He was let go and rehired eventually. Adam Cole has left. Tyler Breeze was let go. And Woods not only is losing content creators, he's making very little, reportedly, of the money that comes through from the channel. Chad, I know you're a big New Day fan, and I know you're a big Xavier Woods guy. So how do you feel about all this? What do you think Woods and WWE should do?
I think this is the same situation with Z True Hollywood story that we had years ago. When you make something outside of the company that explodes, the company gets wind of it, then they take full advantage of everything you've done and all the foundation you've built. I stand with Woods. I'm here for the content. I'm here for the creativity. He can't do that now. Everything is limited, restricted. They're gonna screw him like they do everything else and everybody else. Blah.
Well,
So
I was gonna say, just
I-
point of procedure here. Sorry, Danny. Point of procedure.
No.
James, correct me if I'm wrong here. I do believe Woods started the channel with WWE, so which is why
that's
they
what I
own
was
it,
gonna say. Yeah,
right?
that's what I was gonna say.
Yes.
Okay.
Daniel cover it, but yes, it was always a WWE product, but it's very clear from watching it, and it's very clear if anybody spends even a little bit of time looking at this process, it is 100% Woods' baby. He has made that channel what it is, and yeah, Danny, go for it.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say what you said, that and that's something we just learned, because I had no idea. I assumed, like everyone else, that he started it and then the company worked with him on it after, because they liked Woods. I always thought Woods was like this rare example of someone who is still kind of doing what he wants and the company is not punishing him for it. But it turns out they've been working together since the beginning, and that's mind blowing to know, and also to know that he's making such little money about it. And we're surprised to hear that. His fellow wrestlers were surprised to hear that. This was news to pretty much everyone. I guess he was very hush about it, and I guess I can't blame him, because it's like one of those things that you don't want to say out loud sometimes, and then people are gonna be like, well, you're getting screwed, or you deserve better. And at the time, I'm sure he just wanted to make something that can grow. And they got to it's like 2.5 million subscribers now, maybe closer to 3 million, and it's been a great way. Like, bro, like, we don't see on TV that Cesaro has a personality, but we see on Up Up Down Down that he has a great personality, and he's very, very competitive, almost childishly competitive. But like, I wouldn't know that from watching WWE. Like, hell, even Baron Corbin was likable on Up Up Down Down. Like almost everyone. I found out Bailey was actually really mean and like to her friends on Up Up Down Down. So before she was ever healed. So maybe we could have known earlier that was an option. But I don't. This is just shocking to hear. It's not surprising that WWE is doing it, but it's just shocking to hear, because I think we've all thought about Up Up Down Down one way, and now we're finding out this information that's it's upsetting in a weird way that I don't know how to describe, but I'm sure James does.
No, I'll be honest, I'm actually even afraid to make a big thing about this. Like, I'm afraid for Woods, because right now Woods in WWE feels like he's on top of the world. He finally became King of the Ring, He's actually getting a little bit of a singles run. Do you know that he's never had his own singles music?
I did.
Yeah,
I knew that. I'm aware.
The
Wait, not even
entirety
in
of his
NXT?
He had something for like a couple of weeks, I heard, but for the most, like 99% of his singles run was either R-Truth's music or Brodus fucking Clay's music or New Day music. He never really had his own thing, and I'm afraid of the pushback on this. Like, I don't want him to be like, I don't want some fucking asshole exec to get pissed at Woods, and because Woods might get a little bit more money through the YouTube channel because people are making a ruckus, and then just lose that push that he's finally getting, that he's worked so hard for. Like, that sucks. Like, I am afraid of causing noise or making noise because I don't want it to impact him. That's the company.
Let's just cut this too, then.
See, the difference is what we cut would have gotten us canceled. I just don't want to get Xavier Woods canceled or WWE canceled. But
no, we can cancel WWE. I'm cool with that.
All right. If the United States government couldn't do it in the 90s, there is no way we can.
That is true.
The United States government wasn't taking their money away.
That's fair. But look, I feel for Woodsy. I hope he does make a little bit more money through this. If at the end of the day he's content because he's just doing something fun with his friends, and hey, he got another job out of it. He's working with G4 now, right? Like, I am in no way excusing it. Like, WWE, like, LOL at this point. We know what they are. We know who they are. But I'm just so happy for Woods in every other aspect of his career that I really don't want to push the envelope too much with this.
You know, it kind of sucks too, because we see all these stories about some of the, we'll say, older guys talking about how like the locker room's soft now and it's not like what it used to be. And then, oh, everyone's just hanging out and playing video games. And we're all like, yeah, everyone's out hanging out and playing video games. It's a nice, seems like a much nicer place to work. And we get to watch some of it on this YouTube channel. It's all really nice and good and fun. And then you find out there's this like dark side to it because of course corporate has to ruin everything. And that just sucks. Right, Chad?
Yes, it does. First of all, I would like to say thank you, gentlemen, for putting me on to that information. I was not aware that he started with WWE. I like to say, though, I mean, of course, it's about the money in some aspect, but when you look at the show and you realize what he's doing and how much fun he's having, I think it's more so about the integrity and the independence, which makes me say as well, WWE, why do you hate independents? What the fuck?
No, they love them as long as they're independent contractors.
But independence in air quotes there.
Air quotes. There we go. That works.
Very specifically, independence.
We've seen this before, though. It's a, same situation. If they can't dick you around, then do they need you?
Yeah, they got to make sure they get all that money so then they can proceed to release everybody and make even more of it. All right. Speaking of more people who are released, it has been reported that Bray Wyatt is out in Hollywood working on a new horror film. It's not really a lot known about this right now, but I guess it would seem then, James, that he might not be wrestling at least for a little while, which kind of kills any rumors about him showing up in AEW or Impact.
I mean, theoretically, we've seen people film and wrestle at the same time. It's never easy, but it is doable. And I think it would actually be easier on the AEW schedule where you're only there like once or twice a week as opposed to house shows with WWE. I joked about this earlier with you guys, but I think it's just a sign that he's so burnt out on wrestling from what Vince McMahon has done to him that he needed a break. And a creative guy like I'm going to try to just start referring to him as Wyndham. I'm going to try to move on from Bray, but Bray / Wyndham Rotunda, he's got such a good brain and he's so creative that whether it's a film or wrestling or anything, whatever it is, he's gonna do really good. And he'll prosper as long as his boss isn't Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I think in Hollywood, he's probably going to be granted a lot larger berth to be the type of creative person that he wants to be. Chad, do you got anything for this? What do you think about him being in Hollywood?
I'm in the same boat as James. I think he is a tad burned out from wrestling, which is fine. Take a hiatus, a little break. I'm cool with the movie shit. I can't wait to see it. As James said again, he's super creative. So anything that he spawns, I think, will be pretty dope. I can't wait to see him back in wrestling, of course, the selfishness of me. But yeah, I'm here when he comes back.
I almost wish he had the rights to the Fiend character. I'd love to see a horror movie. I don't even like horror movies.
Yo.
I'd go watch that. I
absolutely
hate horror movies, but I would absolutely go watch that.
Why do you hate horror movies?
I'm not a horror movie guy. I don't go to movies to be scared. I go to movies to be entertained, and being scared isn't entertaining to me. I respect.
I have so many feelings on this.
Okay, we'll circle back to that maybe off air.
I respect horror movies. I respect the genre. They're just not for me. That's my opinion. Danny, what do you got?
So, I mean, I guess Bray might as well go to Hollywood. He's creative, and it's just a different way for him to try to express his creativity to ultimately have higher ups fuck up his vision. It's just a different form of him not being creatively fulfilled for him to go through. And it's weird, or maybe kind of funny, that you threw to James first, because he's the only one of us with any sort of Hollywood experience, like season 9, episode 33 of Made, you know? So it makes sense that you would throw him first. He is the most knowledgeable about this particular field in our group, besides our behind the scenes, you know, president of the podcast, independent film director Eric Gazanti, beloved independent film director, Selfish Ones. Anyway, but yeah, like, it's good for Bray. In all seriousness, it's something different, and it's not surprising to hear him go this route. This is clearly where his heart's at. So yeah, let him have a good time. You know, he'll like James. He'll be a made man.
I like we only made it till episode 10 before we completely blew up James's spot.
Oh God, that felt like a dagger to the heart. It hurt so bad.
You gave me the knife.
I gave you the knife when I was 16. I didn't mean to do it. Oh God.
All right, have fun.
I mean, just now, you're the one who told me what season and episode it was. Just
all right.
I was
guys,
right behind her.
All right, so
guys,
when I was talking before and I just took that weird awkward pause, it's because Danny, the monster that he is, texted me asking what episode it was.
He texted
not knowing what it was going to be used for. I should have known it was nefarious. I didn't know that I didn't know it was going to be in here. I thought he was just trying to throw me, which he did. I was thrown for a loop, but wow, like a boomerang, I got hit a second time. Oh, that was something.
Okay, sorry, James. I had to. Anyway, have fun trying to find that. It's not that easy to find people.
Don't look for it, guys. Don't look for it.
Absolutely.
Don't tell them what to do.
Hey, if you find it, tweet us the link at marketdown_pod.
I will quick pay $5 whoever finds that episode.
Dan, that's on you, man. I'm not chipping in on that. I'm broke. All right, let's move on here. Not all of us get TV residuals. Anyway, so the last thing I want to talk about with the releases is a couple of guys' contracts who are allegedly coming up in the near future. Some of the bigger names. So it appears Johnny Gargano, Kyle O'Reilly, Kevin Owens, and a little bit more down the line, Sami Zayn, all have their contracts reportedly ending. A lot of these guys seem like they could end up in other places. AEW being one of the bigger destinations, obviously. Some of these guys have connections to people there. Obviously, O'Reilly with Adam Cole and Owens with the Super Click because they were Mount Rushmore back in PWG. So, Danny, do you think any of these guys are actually going to leave when their contracts come up?
So, I think a good majority of them will. I think they maybe a year or two ago, if their contracts were coming up, they wouldn't leave. But I don't see how after this year alone, and what if we had 3 batches of releases this year alone? Like, how can someone like Gargano or O'Reilly not see the writing on the wall and see that, like, this is it for them? Like, maybe Gargano can stay and be like that veteran that helps bring in the new guys and show them the ropes and, you know, like take care of them at first. But that's like best case scenario for him right now. There's no main roster career for Johnny Gargano. There's not a real main roster career for Kyle O'Reilly. So I think if they were smart, they would leave, unless they don't care and they just want a big paycheck. But even then, they probably will only get 6 months of that paycheck before they get released in January or in April. So I think Owens I'm 50-50 on Owens. Like, he's had an up and down career, but I would never say he's had a bad main roster career. I think he's had a good, sometimes great, sometimes just okay main roster run. Like, the low light was his feud with Braun, but that was only like a month or 2. It really wasn't long by WWE standards, especially. So with Owens, I could see it going either way. I think he wants to go to AEW. I'm not sure. Maybe because of his family, he'll stay in WWE for more money. Sammy, I don't think he's leaving. He's found his rhythm in WWE. They love him. You can tell. Like, he's one of those people that he's one of the few people I hate when, you know, in wrestling, we're like, oh, that guy can lose. He's fine. He'll just bounce off. Like, oh, that guy can lose. It doesn't matter. Sami Zayn is actually one of those guys who barely ever needs to win, and it's okay. I don't get mad. I don't get like, oh my God, they're misusing Sami Zayn. Like, no, Sami Zayn is such a strong character that losing will become part of his character. It'll make his character better. There's like, Sami Zayn has figured out a formula in WWE that many of the best indie wrestlers coming in cannot figure out, and he has it. So he's the only one I don't think will leave out of that group.
I think you bring a good point with Owens about his family, but I think he might perhaps favor AEW because he would be able to spend more time with them.
That's
Like James mentioned before, talking about Wyndham, the schedule's a lot lighter. You only need to really be there maybe 2 days a week if you're working both Dynamite and Rampage, and they happen to actually be on separate days, which always isn't the case. Or maybe you get called into a dark or an elevation or something. But that doesn't seem to happen too often for the higher level roster guys. So that could be an incentive for him to go. I don't know about the other. I think you make good points about Zayn. I could see Zayn staying, but yeah, I think Gargano and Riley are probably out. I think Gargano's done everything he can do in NXT. Like, he's gone through the entire roster as it was constructed before the reboot, and he's going to probably go through the entire roster again really quickly. And which I don't know what he's doing there anymore, you know, and I don't know if he necessarily fits what they want. He's not a younger guy they need to train. And I would prefer him not to be the Dolph Ziggler of the new NXT, where he's just the guy, you know, jobber to the stars, or, you know, the gatekeeper, so to speak. And same thing with O'Reilly. I think O'Reilly has run his course in NXT as well. And I don't know if he fits the new genre of NXT that we have now. So now, I don't know if they'll go to AEW. I think they all have their connections one way or another, but we'll see. I don't know. Chad, your thoughts, please.
Okay, let me preface this by saying, as a longtime WWE fan, I am still at least 60% brainwashed. So you guys have to... you have to work with me.
You're slowly detoxing with AEW,
right?
But...
slowly detoxing. I went into this topic thinking all four of them stay. No one leaves. How dare you think that with the potential they have? But then I think of the previous topic of all the other people released, and now I think, holy shit, they all might leave. But not to compare and contrast, but you have a wrestler like Johnny Gargano, who I think, again, not to compare too much, who I think could be a main roster Daniel Bryan-esque wrestler or personality. Then you have Kyle O'Reilly, Cool Kyle, who could honestly be the main event of NXT for years and then go to the main roster. But after hearing what you and Danny said, Johnny and Kyle, get out now, please. The ceiling has been tapped. I think it's time to go. I do agree Sammy stays. I don't really see him leaving. Kevin, I thought, didn't stay before you guys said your piece. Now I think he might leave as well. 2 days sounds good. Big check, family time, main event. He's going to be great wherever he goes. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'm 50-50 on Owens, but
Yeah.
I mean, just in a purely speculative way. James, have you recovered? Are you good? You ready to get in on this conversation?
I am dead inside, but
Why?
bad choices of a teenager and the trusting of a friend now. I'm 50-50 on the guys. I think 2 of them are coming over, and I think 2 of them are staying. But even then, it could be 3 and 1 in either direction. My gut tells me Kyle O'Reilly is going to AEW. And I think after what happened on Dynamite tonight, which we could talk about later, I think that decision is beyond dispute, and that was a poor pun, but
No, it wasn't poor.
That was
well,
great.
thank you. I think O'Reilly is AEW bound. I think Sammy is going to be, if not a WWE lifer, he's going to be there for the long haul. And I think, as much as it pains me to say it, I think that's to his benefit right now. He is unfortunately not in the same physical shape he was years ago. Injuries took their toll on him. And we saw that in a lot of the matches he's had when he first started wrestling again after that long gap of not wrestling. He really wasn't taking bumps. He was getting hit, he was getting punched, he was getting kicked, but he wasn't really taking bumps. And that's changed a little bit. Like, he's definitely bumping now, but he's not putting on the same matches we know he's capable of. And it's just speculation on my part, but I think it's because he physically can't. And
well, he puts all of his physicality into his entrances, so he's worn out by the time the match starts.
Oh, exactly.
Listen, that's how he got hurt the first time. He threw out his shoulder, like in the entrance during the U.S. Open Challenge against Cena.
Yep.
Oh, towards rotator cuff, I believe.
Ever since he turned heel, I think, again, that kind of goes into what you're saying, James, that he, him being heel, because I don't think he's turning face anytime soon in WWE, like, that plays to that, because now he doesn't have to do the moonsault off the barricade, doesn't have to do the diving DDT through the ropes. He barely ever dives anymore. Like, he wrestles a lot, still great matches, but just a lot safer style, which, a lot of heels should do. You should cut out the fancy moves. It sucks. I don't like not seeing those moves, but it makes sense in being a heel. So I kind of, when you said that, that kind of popped in my head. Like, yeah, like between injuries and him being heel, like he is playing it a lot safer now, which is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. And as much as we like to fantasy book where these guys could go and what they could be doing, at the end of the day, we want just what's best for them. And I think at this point in his career, WWE is probably what's best for Sammy. Hey, if I'm wrong and he can medically go, by all means, go to AEW, do your thing, be the wrestler you can be. But I think he's WWE full life. But
you're so sad when you said that.
it is sad. Like, I knew his mentor, El Generico. I watched El Generico wrestle, and I know that his protege Sami Zayn had so much potential. I know Chad mentioned this about Gargano, who I want to get into as well, but I always saw Sammy as the successor to Daniel Bryan. And
did at first as well. I agree.
And I think it was Edge or Christian. I think it was Edge when they had Sammy on their podcast years ago. He was like, when they turned him heel, it was like killing a unicorn. It was like you had this pure baby face, this pure good guy, and they just tainted him. And I mean, he's doing incredible work as a heel, but yeah, I think Sammy's with WWE. I could see Gargano going either way. I think the deciding factor there is going to be his wife. I think it's going to be Candice. Candice has a good relationship with a lot of the people in AEW, and I don't think she's ever going to be treated the way she should in WWE.
Does that include the Bucks?
I mean, in wrestling, if you get a kick to the head with thumbtacks attached to it, that's how we say I love you.
Also, can I go back to this unicorn thing real quick? Because we saw the same, I feel like we said the same thing about Bayley, and then look how that turned out. But also, is it better to just kill the unicorn quickly in one swift shot, or to slowly drain all of the magic from it over the years? Because that's what was going to happen with Sami Zayn, because he was never going to get that Daniel Bryan moment. So we were just going to slowly watch him lose all the mystique and all the magic about Sami Zayn. It was just going to slowly fade over time. So I guess it's better to just kill the unicorn quickly.
Or chop the Bailey buddies.
I think on the main roster, you're absolutely right. I think Sami Zayn, the character, probably peaked in NXT, as do many of those NXT superstars.
No, it peaked at Battlegrounds when he faced Kevin Owens and he hit him with the Hoover kick, caught his head, and then put him back up. That was it. That was peak Sami Zayn.
that was epic. That absolutely was epic. I don't want to take away from that, but I think in terms of potential for a character, potential for storytelling, and like I got into NXT because of Sami Zayn. When Sami was going after Adrian Neville, now Pac, for the NXT title, and this journey of just him constantly trying but just falling short, whether it was the fatal 4-way or whatever qualifiers or whoever got in his way. When he finally won the title from Neville, and he did it as a babyface, where he had that opportunity to cheat. He had the belt in his hand and he could have hit him while the ref was down. And he throws the belt down and he does it his way. He does it as a good guy. I'm legit getting goosebumps thinking about it now, because it was incredible, and I think it's one of the best storylines I've seen in wrestling in a very long time, with a beautiful payoff, which is Kevin Owens and power bombing him onto the side of the ring.
Best shit ever.
First takeover I ever watched.
That shit was great.
I think, Nick, to your point, I think that was a lot of people's first takeover. I think and if not their first, one of their earliest takeovers. And it was just great stuff. And I don't think, to your point, Danny, I don't think we would have ever gotten that emotional investment out of Sami from on the main roster in terms of what they were going to put into him. So maybe you are right. That was probably the right thing to do. And I again, he's putting out incredible work now doing it, but it's so weird to think of how that trajectory could have been different if WWE knew how to book baby faces. Gargano, again, I think kind of depends on Candice. I could say the main reason I would want him to go to AEW is him versus Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson versus Johnny Gargano is a match that I think a lot of fans want. I know it's a match Johnny wanted. He was hoping Bryan would go down to NXT for that match. And I think Bryan would love that match too. And
I think he even said he wanted that match too before.
Yeah, so that's my main motivation for seeing Gargano in AEW, but we'll see. And then Owens is the biggest mystery, because we know it's documented. WWE was his dream. He wanted to go to WWE. He used the indies to get to WWE, not just for the paycheck, but because he was a lifelong childhood fan of WWE. And selfishly, I want him in AEW to reunite with the Bucks, to reunite with Cole. And just because I think he could hit another level there. And my God, Kevin Steen versus CM Punk is something I think everybody has dreamt about for years. But if the man's decided to stay in WWE, I would want it in my contract right then and there. I am only going to stay if you put the title on me now. Like, do not re-sign until they make him WWE champion. Have him take the title off Big E. I'm sorry, Chad, but like,
I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. I love Kevin.
Nothing against Big E, but if I'm Kevin Owens / Kevin Steen, I need to know you're going to be pushing me, and I'm not going to go another 4 years or another however many years without a title.
Not to interrupt you, but I think they should have eventually had Kevin take it off of Roman. I think when they were building it, it was almost the perfect time.
He was someone I never thought of to take it off Roman, but he's so good that I got emotionally invested in him taking it off Roman.
Right.
James, I do got to say, though, you bring up Steen versus CM Punk. I'll take Steen versus Eddie Kingston tomorrow. Oh, especially after that shit we saw on Rampage, which we will get to. Oh, my God, that would be so much fun.
I think that's the beauty of these guys, and we could happily talk about it because nobody's getting fired. It's just their contracts ending. The fantasy booking is there for so many of these guys if they go over to AEW or if they go over to Japan, or I guess to an extent Impact too. But no matter what they do, I hope they do what's best for them, and they're doing it for reasons that'll make them happy in the long run. But something that I've been thinking about, which is just so crazy, is how much the AEW roster feels like mid 2010s NXT mixed in with a little bit of Ring of Honor, which is probably what NXT was made of too, and New Japan. Like, it feels like there's been a lot of speculation that a lot of the releases that we had talked about earlier were sort of like them cleaning house of Triple H's guys. Like, we all know that WWE was not happy that NXT, Triple H's NXT, the black and gold, lost to AEW in the Wednesday Night Wars. And if you look at almost everybody who's been released, they were Triple H guys that Triple H really cared about and were really pushing. And like Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, so many of those guys were his guys. And now that he's sort of off the shelf, look at them getting released right away, or off the shelf, on the shelf, my bad. They're getting released. And I don't think it's this big conspiracy the way a lot of people are, but you got to think that Triple H is just fuming with all the work that he put in. Like, we're talking about O'Reilly and the possibility of him going to AEW and joining Bobby Fish and Adam Cole. Undisputed Era just feels like this perfect brainchild of those guys and Triple H and Shawn Michaels and all the work that Hunter and Shawn put in to then benefit another company. It feels like NXT is not the developmental for WWE, it's a developmental for AEW.
Yeah, I mean, you can even another guy too, Malachi Black. They put all that work in, and then they release him, and he doesn't have the 90-day, and he's in AEW 2 weeks later, putting to use all of the work they put in. And yeah, I want to bring up one thing. I probably should have brought this up earlier when we were talking about the releases, but Tony Khan was on the Dan Le Batard show with Sugatz the other day, and they talked to him about AEW a lot, and they also talked about the Jags and some football as well. But that's English football. But
American football.
No, they
talk when
both.
You say English football,
it
sounds
both.
like
they talk because he runs Fulham too. So
fine.
I digress. Tony brought up the fact he mentioned the releases that were happening, and he said he goes not to make light of a situation, but he's like, some of these releases have been very beneficial to us, and it's because some of these people have become huge parts of our roster. And he was like, not even like Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson, like those guys left on their own accord. He was like the people who were fired that have come in. And the first person he said was Ruby Soho. That was the first person he brought up. He was like, she came in and she has set a fire in the women's division, and she is great. He mentioned Miro. I believe he mentioned Malachi Black. He was like, these people have come in and have done some amazing things for us right off the bat. So he's like, they want to keep giving us guys? Fine. I'm good with that. We're not going to take everybody. It's just the way things are going to be. But I will gladly take these guys they don't want, because they are getting rid of some really top tier talents.
I'd like to say too, with because a lot of people, they get fired and they leave and they reinvent themselves. Like, Ruby, not drastically, but she reinvented herself. She had those cool little 3 videos she put out, and she's trying to be a new person. Miro's a completely different person than he was in WWE. Malachi Black, though, nah, he's like, I'm literally picking up where I left off 3 weeks ago on AEW. He's the only one who was like, I'm not changing my character at all. I really liked the character we were about to do, so I'm just gonna do that now here. He's the only one who's like, nah, that was too good. I'm not leaving that behind. Everyone else is like, I'm gonna change, at least to some degree. Not Malachi Black though. He's riding this story out.
It wasn't like he used that character. They just built it, and then he just ended up debuting on Dynamite instead of SmackDown or Raw, or wherever the hell he was supposed to be.
It's a win-win for him, as far as I see it. Shit.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I almost feel a little bad for Paul Heyman. Paul loved him, and I think ended up putting in a lot of that, helping put in a lot of that work, and now he's over in the other company.
I don't know if it's mostly about reinventing themselves as it is about doing what they want. I think if they had this freedom in WWE, we would have seen these characters flourish. But now, it is a reinvention as well. So I agree with Danny, but it's really more of just doing whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah. Also, I don't care. I'll argue to this day that at the time, Aleister Black was never misused in WWE. He was only ever not used. But when he was used, he only lost like 2 or 3 matches on the main roster. He lost like AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, all big names. Like he wasn't losing to, he wasn't like carrying across, losing to Jeff Hardy in his debut. Like he was a protected guy that won the majority of his matches. But then he wouldn't be used for a long time. But like when he was used, he was always booked strong.
I actually have to walk back a comment that I made to one of our very own, Eric. I said, I don't know how many years ago this was or whenever, but I told him that Aleister Black would win the Money in the Bank and then win the title in whatever Money in the Bank situation he was in, because I thought, like you said, he was skyrocketing. I just knew in my mind he was the next coming of Bray or Undertaker or Kane type personalities. I definitely thought he was going to be WWE champion by now.
Well, now he's in AEW, and I can definitely see him eventually being AEW champion. He might be TNT
it's better
first,
now.
but he's winning some titles over there. There is no doubt in my mind. But we will get to Dynamite in a bit. Let's get in the ring in WWE. Talk a little bit about Raw, because I know, Danny, you briefly mentioned this earlier. You think Raw hasn't been that bad. Now, you're talking to at least 2 people who have pretty much stopped watching. But you said it's despite the impressively low rating, it's really not as bad as everyone thinks it is.
Okay, so I don't like how much positivity was in that. I feel like that makes it seem like I really enjoyed it, but I'm just saying by Raw's really bad and low standard, it was an okay show.
I believe the term you used was unbelievably okay.
Yes, unbelievably okay is the nicest way I can put it. And by that I just mean there was 2 good matches and 1 good story beat throughout the show. I mean, the numbers were bad. I forgot the exact numbers, but it was one of Raw's lowest ratings in a while, and it's really close to their all-time low. But the show itself was fine. But it is the problem that Raw always has is that there's nothing to grab people. It's hard to grab people for 3 hours, and then when you're not even trying to grab people, like when you do have a good show, it still doesn't matter. And this wasn't even good. This again was just okay. They had a good fatal 5-way match for the women that made pretty much everyone look good at some points. And it had a story beat of Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair squaring off like they did at the end of the Rumble throughout the match. And the crowd was very into it, showing that both these women are stars and will continue to be stars, and that's in Rhea's case, that's despite all of her booking from the summertime. And in Bianca's case, I mean, she's just as much of a star as she was a few months ago. It's pretty much the same. But they started a feud for Bianca with Doudrop throughout this match. They built to Zelina and Carmella being number 1 contenders for the tag titles, which is a whole problem in itself, which ties back to what Chad said earlier. Why does WWE hate women? Because they fired so many women. They don't have any tag teams to fight for the tag team titles.
It's a He-Man Woman Haters Club.
But so that was pretty much it. I just really liked that one match and all the Kevin Owens stuff. Kevin Owens is having some nice character moments where he's turning heel, but he doesn't want to turn heel, or he doesn't believe he's turning heel. Like he wants everyone to believe him when he says he's still a face, but everyone's like, we know how this goes, Kev. You're going to turn heel. And it's a nice story beat for Kevin. It's interesting. But, if you notice all the things I've talked about Raw, none of that has anything to do with Survivor Series, besides the fact that the women in the Fatal 5-Way are the Survivor Series team, which is, that's how you build to a 5-on-5 tag match, is you have one team of 5 fight each other. That's Survivor Series in 2 weeks, and no one gives a fuck.
I was gonna say before the show, I had to ask when Survivor Series was. I know it's always around Thanksgiving, and I completely forgot it was coming up. I mean, James, I believe you also mentioned too that they announced the teams on Twitter, like with no pomp or circumstance or nothing. They just tweeted them all out.
They revealed member by member on social media who it was going to be, and the teams are nice, but I think it was Ricochet who tweeted, "What happened to qualifying matches?" And I would have been fine if they just revealed the team on the show, have like a moment of like who's going to be on the team, some excitement.
Yeah.
I like qualifying matches. I think it's a good way to get people like hyped for the upcoming match to highlight the guys. But I don't know. Like, it feels like WWE gave up on Survivor Series a long time ago. And what was once one of the big four pay-per-views, like as they were referred, it was Survivor Series, Rumble, SummerSlam, and WrestleMania. It just feels like a tradition that they don't want to let go of, but they don't actually care about. And
it's a bottom four pay-per-view now.
Yeah. And I want to care. I love Survivor Series. I love it when it's done well. Like when
NXT won all of those matches that one year.
That was great.
That was a good one.
That was great. When Adam Cole came up and confronted Daniel Bryan, like that was awesome. That was awesome. But I don't know. I know we only mentioned the women, but like the other thing they did was with Bobby Lashley taking.
Oh yes, I wanted to bring that up because it's so dumb. It's hilarious.
Go for it.
But go ahead.
No, go for it. Go for it. I was just.
So
why?
First of all, almost all of Raw's team were SmackDown roster members a month ago, but we'll ignore that and pretend that they have some attachment to Raw. Dominic Mysterio was on Team Raw, and then they announced this on Saturday on social media, right? Like on Saturday they announced the teams. So somewhere between Saturday and Monday they realized, oh shit, Bobby Lashley is still here. He should probably be on this team. And why did we put Dom on this team? Like, it doesn't make sense in kayfabe or in any way, really. So they just out of nowhere, Adam Pearce, who's been as neutral of a character as you can be, he's very bland, he's very vanilla by design. He's not a heel, he's not a face, he's nothing. He comes out and all of a sudden is basically a heel, and is like, everyone on the team's a former WWE champion, except you, Dom. He's like, and for some reason, I want Team Raw to win. Team Raw has to win this. I manage both shows, but I'm really invested in Raw winning this match. And then he's like, what? It's like, if you can prove to me that you deserve to be on this team by taking on a former WWE champion, but if he wins, he's going to take your spot. So Bobby Lashley comes out, beats the shit out of Dom because that's Bobby Lashley's new character. He beats up Legend Sons. And he beats up Rey Mysterio too. And then they're like, oh my God, these guys are going to have to be on a team in 2 weeks. And they just, again, like, they announced the team on Saturday. And by Monday, they're already like, fuck, tear up that script. And here we go. They changed the team within 2 days. They couldn't even make it one Raw. The team had not even been announced on Raw, really. It just, it was hilariously stupid.
Like, I want to believe that was always the intention. Like, they wanted that.
They want you to believe that.
Right? Like, we put Dom on the team so he could lose the spot to Bobby. Then why fucking do it? Like, why? Because at best, Bobby feels like a substitute. He feels like an afterthought. Like, he wasn't initially thought of for this role. You got to remember Bobby Lashley. That doesn't look good. And then he had to win his spot by beating Dominic Mysterio, who, good for Dom for pursuing this dream. But
he's no Hook. So
yeah, he's no Hook. Damn right, he's no Hook. I'm sorry, I got hyped. He's not Hook.
All right, Chad has been chomping at the bit here for like 5 minutes now. Get after it.
I honestly just wanted to say that Survivor Series is now bragging rights 2.0. It's ridiculous. It's a shitty pay-per-view. It's not in the big four anymore. The only thing I am mildly excited about with Survivor Series is that I don't have to fucking watch Randy Orton, Matt Riddle, AJ Styles, and almost in the same fucking ring for the 159th time. Back to you, Ev.
well, now I'm thinking, are they doing a tag team Survivor Series match? Because then they might be in the same ring, but on the same side.
I would think that they would go against who's the tag team
they would chase the champs.
The Usos, yeah, because it's bragging rights 2.0.
Yeah. Sorry, this is how much I don't care. I don't even remember how the damn matches work.
I'm with you, bro.
Xavier Woods put something really fun on Twitter that I hope that they do, but the fact that it was on Twitter and no one else is talking about it makes me think it'll never happen, or at least not this year. But to add some stakes to it, he said the winning team should be able to secure the final 5 spots in the Royal Rumble. And the losing team would have to get the first 5 spots of the Royal Rumble.
Get Xavier in creative ASAP.
Seriously.
Cool.
I mean, they're already not paying him for the other job he's doing. So.
Yeah, might as well. He wears a lot of hats. Although I like that idea. Although I don't like the idea of the final entrant being told to us ahead of time. But other than that, I still think it's a great idea.
It's
something.
something.
It stakes. Yeah, it's something. Yeah, exactly.
They're gonna screw the Royal Rumble up anyway, so they might as well do something new. Are you
kidding me? What track record are you going based off of when you say that?
20 years.
I mean, even if they do that, and you could just be like, they bring back somebody like when they brought back Edge, you could just be like, oh, he's SmackDown signed him or whatever. You could just kind of do it that way if you wanted. This way, you could still have surprises without it being like, okay, it's got to be like one of these dudes from the roster. Maybe just a way to work around that.
Do any of you remember when Survivor Series used to lead into Royal Rumble, where they would start building these stories so that we would kind of know what was going on in Mania season right around the corner? I'm so tired. I'm exhausted and lost with what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, it's a lack of continuity.
Right.
I want to believe, like, at this point, typically, it's always been said that creative knows, or at least Vince knows, how he wants the book for Mania by this point. Like, he knows what he wants Mania to be. And I'm sure if we really think about it, we could tell it. We could figure out the Mania card right now. At least the high end of the card, we could do.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. Personally, I'm sick of Survivor Series being Raw versus SmackDown. Like, I like the old days where it's like, Raw had a match, SmackDown had a match, and that was it. But
I like it. I just don't like the build anymore because first they have the draft way too close to Survivor Series because, like Danny said, the majority of Raw's team was on SmackDown no less than 3 weeks ago. So that's really dumb. There's no stakes to, like, it's just brand supremacy. That's not stakes. Like,
right.
Like you said, it becomes bragging rights. Exactly. So that's dumb. And then after they did the one, I guess this was right after, whenever Becky led SmackDown into Raw and Nia broke her nose. After they did that angle, they've tried to do that every year since, and it is so played out. And
stale.
So often they ignore characters.
Yeah.
Well, their tendencies, just for the sake of brand supremacy. Like, I remember one year there were women invading. I don't even remember what show she was on, but Bailey came in and, like, blindsided somebody and jumped her. And this was like face hugger Bailey. Like, just jumped somebody. Bailey jumped somebody. Like, they just throw everything out the window. It becomes Raw versus SmackDown. Nothing else matters. And the booking just becomes so bad, and it's just gotten so stale them doing it over and over and over again. or not them doing Raw vs. SmackDown over and over again, just the same thing leading into those shows every year. That it's just, it sucks. It's boring now. It's repetitive.
And it's funny because you use like the Becky one as an example, but even by then it was repetitive. It was just like the best one they've ever done and the most iconic because of everything that happened around it. Like even then, like it was already like, that was what, 3 years in to the brand split again and having this Raw vs. SmackDown Survivor Series. And it's like they just did it with the men the previous years, but it was the first time the women did it. And like you said, with people betraying their characters, Becky and Charlotte were working together during that, you know, invasion, despite them literally having a last woman standing match like 3 weeks earlier. So yeah, that's the biggest problem, because I actually don't mind the brand versus brand stuff. Like I don't care. Like we got into the Wednesday Night Wars. I have no problem with them fabricating their own war. But like, yeah, it's just the inconsistencies of how, like, why would they care? You know, like, why does Dom, who's only ever wrestled for SmackDown, care about Raw that he's been there for 2 weeks? You know, like, that part is absolutely the worst part.
And that Becky
and we spent more time on this than they spent planning this so far. Just so
agreed.
And
no title matches again.
Yeah, that Becky one was the beginning of the man too, like the start of that run, and her leading SmackDown in like that, especially because I think it involved Ronda Rousey and her shit talking Ronda.
Yeah,
just it made it so much cooler, and that's why, and it catapulted Becky, especially because she got her face busted. It catapulted Becky to another stratosphere. But that's like the only time I feel like it really, really worked.
Exactly.
Ever since then, it's just been like, all right, you're trying to do that again? Like, come on. It's not going to work again. All right. Have we got all our frustrations out about Raw and Survivor Series?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Whatever.
I do believe that is the proper answer. Whatever. So let's move on to something that's not whatever. AEW. We got a lot of stuff coming from both last week's Dynamite, Friday night's Rampage, and tonight's Dynamite, the final show before Full Gear. This weekend, we will do Full Gear in a bit. Let's start with Dynamite and Rampage. I personally want to start with the Eddie Kingston versus CM Punk promo on Friday. That was straight fire. Oh, that was two guys clearly did not have a script, just went out and absolutely just shit talked each other. And I haven't seen something that with that much vitriol in a long time, Danny.
Oh yeah, that was something. I know Eddie Kingston is from Yonkers, but like, nah, he's from the Bronx. Like,
yeah,
he's from the Bronx. Like everything about his mannerisms, the way he talks, I'm just like, man, I know so many people talk like Eddie Kingston, just not as eloquently, but with all the same dialect, the same mannerisms. Like he really, I told you this guys in our group chat, like he was cutting circles around Punk in this promo. Like Punk cut a good promo. Eddie Kingston cut an otherworldly promo. Like he got the crowd to boo Punk a little bit. And it went back and forth. Punk got the crowd to boo Eddie. Like Eddie got the crowd to boo Punk. It was just so good, to the point where I'm actually really upset that Full Gear is this Saturday. I want more time with this story. I want more time with them cutting promos. Eddie has constantly hit it out of the park and shown everyone, because I'm gonna be honest, when Eddie first came in, I was like, oh, this guy's good. Like, I don't get why everyone's like hyping him up this much. I'm like, he just talks like every other dude from New York. That wasn't impressive to me.
Yeah, we're all just like, yeah, we know that guy. He lives around the corner.
Like, bro, like, yeah, he reminds me of so many people I know. Why am I gonna like connect to him like that? But you know, for me, I think it goes back to the as bad as the ending to that pay-per-view was, but him coming out to try to save Mox and lay down over him at the end of the exploding barbed wire death match. really like took his character to another level for me. I was like, I get this guy, I get it. And then he's just been knocking it out of the park since then. And even then, this it ties in a way, because I feel like a lot of what Punk has been doing is Punk has mentioned Bryan Danielson a lot in his promos, in his interviews. But Bryan isn't talking about Punk. Bryan's not talking about anyone, really. He's just focusing on his opponents, whatever he's trying to do. You know, just talking about how he's the best in the world. But Punk keeps mentioning Bryan. He mentioned him in this promo. He's mentioned him before. And they both fought Bobby Fish. And now they both fought Eddie Kingston in a short span of time. And Bryan's promo started, pretty much everything Punk was saying started with Bryan's promo of calling Eddie lazy, saying he doesn't work hard enough. And now Punk's promo is built off of that little bit, because that was a pre-tape promo that was maybe 1.5 minutes long to hype up a match that was an amazing match. I'd argue as good, if not better, than the Omega match, and especially with that defiant ending of Eddie Kingston passing out. The match was still physical, and it's just amazing. But the way it ended with Eddie passing out, flipping off Bryan Danielson, sorry, was beautiful. And I'm like, oh man, how are they gonna top that for Eddie? Like, that was amazing. And immediately he has that backstage segment with Punk, and then he does this. So it's very interesting, because I think Punk wants to team with Bryan. He wants to do something with Bryan, and he's slowly hinting at that over time, because I feel like he's done that a lot with his promos. He hints at little things, but here I almost felt like his back was against the wall, and he defaulted to like the typical veteran promo. And not that it was bad, just that I thought it was very much like oh snap, he has you in a corner and this is your only defense. So I really thought Eddie showed that he is on another level that, yeah, I think we all knew he was capable of, but didn't truly know how deep it went. I keep going about this, but I'm gonna stop now.
You called it the typical veteran promo from Punk, and somebody pointed out somewhere, or I think at least asked Punk, it was like, wasn't this your promo against John Cena a few years back in like 2010 or 2011 or something? He was like, yeah, that was basically it, except Eddie was me and I was John. Like they just flipped the roles there, and it was like he called it an Easter egg.
Yeah,
and you can see, James, just I guess the growth of CM Punk as a wrestler on the mic, and then just he's the guy now, and Eddie is now where he was 10 years ago.
I think the crazy thing to me, and I haven't really seen anybody say this or many people really talk about it, I personally think Punk was holding back in the promo. You could sort of see it in his face a little bit a couple of times. He's got that shit-eating grin that is just synonymous with CM Punk. And I felt that it's weird because it kind of ties into real life stuff. I think because a lot of people forget how that promo started. Before Punk addressed Eddie, Punk was addressing Moxley, who I know we're going to talk about. But Punk just went into a whole thing about, you know, if you need help, go get help. How he commended Moxley for doing what he needed to better himself.
This is the Dynamite promo from 2 weeks ago, right? When he was by himself, I believe. Because
yes, last week's Dynamite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
last week's Dynamite.
Yeah, excuse me, last week's Dynamite.
And then immediately he starts ragging on Eddie, who his whole thing is, I've been suffering for all this time too in my real everyday life. My brain has been going through it. I've been having my own struggles. And then Punk immediately is saying, you're a bum. You're a bum, he says. You're a bum. So he's coming across as a little bit of a hypocrite. And I think Punk, the real life person, knows that. But I also think that Punk couldn't then immediately, like, it felt like straight edge Punk wanted to shit on Eddie. Like, straight edge society heel Punk wanted to rip on Eddie's struggles that Eddie alluded to and have become now a little more well known because of the article he published. But the real life Punk also knew that he couldn't do all those things right after talking about Moxley. So it would have been interesting to see if he didn't have that handcuff on. But even with how it played out, Punk, who is still technically a babyface, is playing the heel in this feud. And you could just see the hypocrisy coming off of the character. You could see he's claiming to be happy, smiley Punk, but he's still sort of the jaded guy that we knew, but now he's old man jaded Punk.
And that translates into matches when you can see every match he has, it's a little harder for him to win, and he's starting to realize I might be getting lucky, or maybe I can't do this the way I used to, or maybe I can't do this the way I thought I could do. Maybe I'm not the best in the world. So
yeah, there's
a lot.
Punk's the heel here. I was gonna say Punk's the heel here, or at least the fans are gonna make Punk the heel here, because the entire internet's like, I'm rooting for Eddie now.
Yeah, I don't think Punk has acted like a heel in any way other than the headbutt that he did to Eddie, the cheap shot that he took. I think him coming out and demanding an apology from Eddie is just 100% who Punk is, you know, a heel or a face. And Eddie is the one who came looking for trouble after that loss from Bryan. He was. And Punk is not the type of person to back down. He's going to be stubborn and butt his head even harder. But I think this is going to lead to it. The same way that like Kenny's initial feud with Moxley, Kenny wasn't really the heel, but it definitely laid the groundwork for him turning heel afterwards. And I mean the first feud with Moxley, the one that led to the lights out match, not the title change and all that stuff.
And James, real quick, before I throw it over to you here, Chad, the article you mentioned that Eddie Kingston wrote, I highly recommend everybody go to the Players Tribune and read that. It was a very emotional, real, raw article. And I think it definitely helps play into the feud. So even the timing helps play into the feud. But I do want to throw it over to super CM Punk fan Chad, get his take on everything here.
Yes. So first and foremost, the only thing that I absolutely hated about this promo is that I didn't fucking see it live. When I tell you the group chat was when I saw Rev texting, holy shit, I was like, damn, I missed something that is super important. So I had to go back to it Saturday, which pissed me off. However, I watched it on Saturday and holy shit was right. When I tell you that was the promo I've been looking for since Punk has come back, like the rest has been kind of just plateaued. Like it's been regular, classic Punk. But this shit here, I'm with Danny. Kingston wraps circles around dude. Like he promoted the hell out of it to the point where I could tell with James that CM Punk was holding back to kind of let Eddie shine in a way that, I mean, that like pressure makes diamonds. We saw what just Punk smirking did to Eddie, what came out of him after that. That shit was, like Danny said, otherworldly. I've looked up multiple promos by Eddie Kingston just because of that one promo. I think he is about to be on a terrible run. He's out of here after that. He has to be. It made me miss New York. I hate you all. I wish I was home. That shit was great, man. I mean, Punk.
Don't you just feel like you had to be eating a bacon, egg, and cheese while listening to that?
Absolutely. No pork on my fork. However, yes.
I love that.
Now I want a bacon, egg, and cheese. God damn it, Danny. All right. Yeah, bacon, egg, and cheese at 12:30 at night sounds great. Anyway, moving right along here. As we said earlier, tonight's Dynamite was the go-home Dynamite before Full Gear. Obviously, the build to Hangman Adam Page versus Kenny Omega has been great, and they topped it off tonight with the main event contract signing. Don Callis disguised as a cameraman, which I very much enjoyed the subtlety of him constantly walking in front of the other cameraman and getting away with his shots. I was like, that's like the fourth time this happened. That's really weird. Yeah, Don was disguised as the cameraman and hit Hangman in the head with the camera, busted him open, and Kenny ended up signing the contract in his blood, which is an interesting way to, I don't want to say end the feud, but interesting way to end everything before going into the pay-per-view, unless something happens on Rampage. We'll see. But James, wow, with that, like, I've loved this build, but it was I don't know, what the hell.
So I'm a little mad at you for ignoring the best part of Don's return, which was not only did he come back disguised as a cameraman, wearing a mask, but for some inexplicable reason, he also put on a fake goatee under the mask.
Oh, it was chef's kiss.
It didn't make sense. It was nonsensical, but god damn it, it was amazing. And I'll be honest, I've been missing Don. I feel like he's an integral part of the heel Kenny act, and it was good to see him back. Admittedly, I kind of wish he had just returned at the pay-per-view as opposed to during this segment, because I think the segment on its own was great. And I think if Kenny wanted to attack Hangman, he could have done it without Don hitting him with the camera. I think it would have hit a little bit harder, but I think it did do its job of showing that come Saturday, Hangman isn't just dealing with Kenny. He's going to be dealing with Don and probably the Elite or whoever. And I did love, I don't know how much of it was Kenny just bullshitting Hangman, but I did love Kenny sort of calling out Hangman, saying, I was there for you in the beginning. I was like, that's one of the big things that's actually been kind of disappointing me about this feud, because it could have added just so much more depth and a whole nother layer, is if they acknowledged all those times that Hangman deliberately pushed himself away from the Elite. I know Hangman has mentioned it. I know Hangman has said, I have things that I need to apologize for, and I have things that I was wrong about. But never once did the Elite really say, it's like, we didn't want this, man. We wanted you to be with us. We wanted this, the four of us, to be tearing it up. But hey, you pushed, and guess what? Now we're pushing back. So it would have been cool if there was a little bit more of that. Like, there's so much footage that they could use to highlight that. But at the end of the day, I loved Hangman mentioning Ibushi. I loved Hangman mentioning now that he's sort of where Kenny was. And because there is so much speculation about potential New Japan crossovers coming up shortly, them planting those seeds now is just so enticing. But I think the Hangman story is the best story in wrestling right now. I think Kenny's story years ago, when he was where Hangman is now, was the best story of back then too. And to see this connective tissue, this story that spans years, feel like we're reaching that climax, it's exciting. And I think this segment really hit a lot of the notes that it needed to hit.
Yeah, I might have undersold it there, at least on my end. I did really like it. I just thought the signing it in blood thing was a little odd, but I'm gonna have to disagree with you on Don's return, because I like it here, because not moments before that, Hangman was just saying how he thinks Kenny is scared of him. And I think Hangman actually had a very good promo here. I do not want to be remiss in not mentioning it. That was like a triple negative, whatever. But I wanted to make sure I mentioned it, because it was a really good promo, and I really very much enjoyed what he said. And then I think Don having to be in a disguise and, not blindside Hangman with the camera helps prove his point that Kenny is kind of scared of him, because he has yet to take Hangman on one-on-one since their last match, the pay-per-view. I'm blanking on the number one contenders match during the title.
Full Gear last year.
Yes, we'll go last year for the title eliminator tournament. So, and even then, Hangman was like, "You said I'm proud of you, kid. Good job," because he was scared of me and he didn't want me to get that fire to come back and beat him. So, I like Don's return here. I hadn't even really realized he was gone, which I think was the point. His return was surprising. I was like, "Oh shit, it's Don!" And I was like, "Oh shit, he hasn't been around for a while." Like it was just very well. It was very well done, Chad. And I think now we're leading into what I think could be a classic match after a very good build.
Absolutely. You guys have to forgive me. I have WWE brain. It's just I can't turn it off sometimes. But tonight I saw shades of the whole Triple H versus Batista spill back in the
to change.
Triple H was scared shitless of Batista, but Batista was still his underling. And I saw shades of that tonight. Like I saw Hangman tell him, like you said, "Yo, you're scared of me, dude. Like you can say what you want. You big me up on the side, but I know at the end of the day, you're scared of me." That hit home for me. That was great. And then I'm with you. The Blood signing the contract was a tad odd. However, I fucking loved it because when's the last time you've seen blood? like when's the last time you've seen something, out of the ordinary like that? It was refreshing for me. I haven't seen that since Brock splashed Hulk Hogan's blood on his chest. So that for me was awesome. As you guys know, I'm about 40% in on this feud. I need to research my research and get the other 60% in and figure out everything, but I'm loving this. This shit is super refreshing. If Hangman doesn't win, I'm kind of going to be pissed. We'll talk about that in predictions. But yeah, this shit was great.
I think the last time I saw somebody sign a contract in blood was when Brock Lesnar asked for a challenger before WrestleMania 30, and Undertaker came out, stabbed him in the hand with a pen, and then signed it in his blood.
Oh, shit.
I think that's the last one I saw, if I remember correctly. But you're
why are we talking like that's a normal thing that went away? Like back in the day, we all signed our contracts in blood, but this new PC era, now everyone's just doing it in ink. Come on, guys.
I mean, it's called a blood oath, so
Is it?
Yeah, yes, that's literally what it's called.
As sick as it sounds, though, it was refreshing. It was entertaining for me.
Well,
I'm sorry.
The more I think about it, it's actually kind of plays into Kenny's character. As James has called him before, an anime villain. That seems like something an anime villain would do.
Absolutely.
So, Chad, like you said, this has gone back since even before technically AEW, but definitely since the beginning of AEW. So, Danny, I assume you've watched all of it. What are your thoughts heading into this feud after 2+ years of build?
It's not bad.
And I thought I undersold it.
No, I mean, I liked the blood thing. I didn't have that strong feelings about it. I was like, that's pretty cool, but I think my favorite part, honestly, the promo is just when Kenny was like, "Hey man, I'm proud of you." Like, it's like, no matter what, I'm proud of you. Let's go out and tear it out. Like, it was very nice. Hangman was great. It's weird because I don't know, maybe it was just me, but when I was watching the show, the segment started at like 9:51 or something. Like it didn't have a lot of time. Like, so it did not that it felt rushed. It just felt like it would have been longer. Like things would have had more time to breathe, and like a couple things would have been stretched out more. But that's like, again, that's nothing to do with Kenny or Hangman, or it's just maybe a couple things in the show ran a little long. But it again, like I said this with the Punk Kingston, like even though this has been building for 2 years, it feels weird that we're like finally here at Full Gear, and the story might not be over yet. I'm not saying that it is, but I don't know. It feels weird. It feels like almost like, oh wow, it's actually here. Like I don't know if, I mean, maybe James, you would relate, like buying a ticket to an event like months and months and months in advance, and you're thinking about like, oh, I can't wait, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be great. And all of a sudden, you're a couple of days away, and you're like, oh, this is not the feeling I expected to feel. It's hard to describe. But that's how it feels with this feud. It feels like we've been talking about it for so long, and we've been getting so excited about it. And now that it's like actually here, it's not that I'm not excited. It's just I feel weird about it. Like, oh my God, it is actually here. But again, I'm not saying that it's over. Yeah. I'm not saying that it actually is here, but you know, if it is here.
The match is.
Yeah, the match is gonna happen.
Yeah. Whether or not it actually culminates with Hangman's coronation is, you know, obviously remains to be seen. But I think we can all say that we've definitely enjoyed them getting to this point, and it's been some of the best long form storytelling and wrestling that we've seen in a very long time. I genuinely can't think of anything that compares to it of recent years outside of what Kenny's been doing in general, but that's just me.
Yeah, and again, to like I said about Eddie Kingston, where he first came in, I was like, I mean, like, this guy's good, but like, I don't get all the hype. I felt the same way about Hangman. Like, I did not really care much about Hangman, and when there was rumors that he would be the first champion, I was like, this guy, like, he's good, but like, you're gonna build the company around him. And you know, 2 years later of AEW storytelling, I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely, build a company around him. I'm all for that. And I forgot, I'm sorry, I don't remember which one of you guys said it earlier, but when, yeah, I like that. I wish that was James, because he wanted them to mention more about how the Elite wanted Hangman to be part of them. They wanted to be the four of them. Like, yeah, like it's weird to think that, you know, it seemed like he was going to be the one to turn heel out of that group, and it would be just him turning heel on them as opposed to all of them turning heel on him. So it's interesting to see how far we've come in the short span of AEW and all the stuff that happened before.
Yeah, I know James has talked about how the Elite, the Bucks, and Kenny, they've seen outside of, you know, kayfabe, whatever, they've seen Hangman as the best of them. And I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about like how long we've watched Hangman, and I learned about Hangman from being the Elite, and it's just amazing what a vehicle being the Elite is for getting people over. It's not just a Dark Order, like, or Marty Scurll. You know, I know that's got its own issues now, but I fell in love with Hangman on BTE. Like, he was, you know, originally, you know, he was the Hangman because that was the running joke, that he had a big dick. I'll just say it solid there. But, you know, eventually there was a whole thing where he was possibly a murderer with somebody else we're not going to talk about, and then a lot more things. And that's where I fell in love with Hangman. So, Chad, I highly recommend you at least go watch some of those clips.
I have to.
Yeah.
Chad, I'll be honest with you, and this is to the audience as well. Being the Elite is essential viewing as an AEW viewer. It's one of those things that it's tough, and like there's plenty of criticism to be laid at the feet of these guys for it, to make a YouTube show necessity for the weekly TV as well. But BTE lays, like as Nick said, so much groundwork for where these guys will eventually go, what their characters become. A lot of the jokes that you see played on TV, like Adam Cole being called Budge every week by the Dark Order. That's a BTE gag that somehow caught on fire. And
the Dark Order's a BTE gag that somehow caught on fire.
That's absolutely true. That is absolutely true.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of that was Brody, but that's what it was.
If you think about it, Hangman and the Dark Order combined is entirely BTE. The groundwork for that was never laid on Dynamite, like almost ever. It was the fuck Hangman party on BTE with the Dark Order, and then it turned into something beautiful because of that show. So, Chad, if you ever need to understand what's going on with AEW, its past, its present, and its future, BTE is the show to do it.
Got you. Say less.
There's a lot of episodes. I think they're in the 300s now.
No, I think they're close to 300.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think
in
they're
the
getting
250.
close,
Yeah.
but they're definitely worth it. I'm trying to remember when I started watching them. It was probably around the time I started getting into Bullet Club. So like when Kenny was the cleaner and he was facing Okada and stuff. So shortly after AJ Styles got to WWE, I would imagine. And I went back and watched them all from the beginning at one point. I was like, screw it. I went back and watched all of them, and it was worth all of it. Like it's amazing too. And I know we're getting a little off track here, but it was a travel vlog. It was just the Bucks, you know, talking about them flying around and like what they did that day and like how hurt they are. And now it's gone back to that a little bit because they showed them flying and going to buy shoes and whatever. But it has become such a story-driven vehicle that has added so much depth and character to AEW. It's unbelievable.
I can't wait, honestly.
I highly recommend it. And if you can do a condensed version of something before Saturday, and not just you, Chad, anybody who doesn't know the history, I would recommend that as well. And I would also probably recommend watching Countdown to Full Gear after Rampage. I swear to God, this is not an ad. All right, let's move on now to something a little more serious. Before last week's Dynamite, Tony Khan announced that Jon Moxley was going to be checking into rehab for alcoholism. We're not going to speak on too much on the actual events that are happening with John. Obviously, we all really like him as a performer, and we hope he is doing well as a person and that he gets the support he needs and is able to feel better as soon as he can. But this leaves an obvious gap in the booking here in AEW. He was part of the the AEW Championship Eliminator Tournament. His slot was filled by Miro, and now Miro will be facing Daniel Bryan on Saturday. So I guess, Danny, it looks like Miro is going to be taking Moxley's spot, possibly as a top heel, and let's assume Hangman wins the title, maybe is Hangman's first true challenger.
Yeah, that seems to. I mean, we'll get on to that with predictions because I think that one's really, really hard. Like a lot of matches on this card, it's really hard to predict. But you know, this is the kind of thing that happens in wrestling a lot. Not the rehab part, but someone having to step away because of whatever circumstances, injury, family, whatever outside circumstances. And it's a weird pattern in wrestling where like whatever comes from that almost always turns out to be really good. Like, you know, and again, what's happening to Moxley aside, like you said, we're not gonna touch on that. You know, best of luck to him. But as far as the storytelling goes and the wrestling aspect of it, it's hard to see it as anything. Not a win, because I think whatever Moxley was going to do was going to be amazing. But we're not losing anything. We're just getting something else that's equally as good and just as interesting and intriguing. And you know, it's for Miro, it's great. It's because who knows where he was going to go without this. But now he's again, like, he keeps getting more compelling. Like, he's more compelling. I thought his TNT Saturn was great. I thought the God's Favorite Champion shtick was great. And now he's expanding on it, and I think it's going to be even better. So, you know, I guess in kayfabe, the silver lining is we're getting some great storytelling from Miro. So, you know, again, assuming that everything works out for Moxley, I guess the silver lining takeaway from here is that we're going to get something amazing with Miro one way or the other.
Yeah, to your point, you know, when somebody goes out, whether it's for injury or otherwise, you could look at something like Kofi Mania, where Ali, I believe, was supposed to be in that position, and he ended up getting hurt before Elimination Chamber, and they put Kofi in, and that kicked off a run for him that the likes of which he had never seen. So, you know, you hate to be cold and just be like, oh, next man up, but you know, somebody's got to fill the slot here, James, and it looks like Miro's going to be the guy.
I think Miro, like, again, to echo what you guys have already said, let me start off by just saying best of luck to Mox and his family. I wish them nothing but the best, and I hope for a speedy, healthy recovery for him. When it comes to Miro, I think he was the best choice given the circumstances, given I think what they wanted that match to be, which is a hard-hitting babyface Bryan versus what would be a vicious opponent. And I don't think you could get much more vicious than Mox than with Miro. And, you know, again, like Danny said, I'll hold off on my prediction until we get into it. But I think either man moving forward would be a worthy challenger to either Kenny or Hangman. And I think we're going to get a great match. And Danny hit the nail on the head. Wrestling sometimes delivers its best stuff when it's in emergency mode and it's got to cover its ass for something that was supposed to happen. So I hate how we got here, but I'm excited for what we're going to get.
The other example I always like to bring up when somebody says, you know, wrestling does their best things when it's emergency mode. I forget the circumstances. I think like Roman Reigns got sick and then a bunch of people got stuck somewhere else or something like that.
Yep.
And
it was like malaria or something.
It was the measles. Bray had the measles and he somehow passed it on to Roman, and Bray's match with Finn Balor, which was supposed to be some Halloween.
Oh, it's like it was still the Demon King, and like he was dressed like a pumpkin.
It was going to be the Demon Finn Balor versus Sister Abigail Bray Wyatt, and to this day, thank God we never saw that.
Yeah, because we got the Demon against AJ Styles instead, and then we got the fourth member of the Shield, Kurt Angle.
Fifth member of the Shield. Fifth member of the Shield, Kurt Angle.
Who's the fourth?
I mean, I think it's I think like they've acknowledged it as Joey fucking Mercury. But
yeah. Well, because I was gonna say, I know during that house show run when Roman was still out, Triple H filled in once or twice put the vest on.
I don't even whatever.
No comment.
Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense in case.
Right.
But it was a house show. Sorry, off the rails here again. Chad, what do you think about Miro looking to be poised to be one of the top heels for the near future?
I mean, you guys pretty much touched on everything. To Mox, get well soon. Best of luck with everything in that situation. I agree with you guys. There's still a silver lining, although, you know, we are in emergency mode. And I have to say, since watching AEW, Miro and his whole persona and heelness has been one of the most entertaining parts of watching AEW. I feel like he was silenced for years and put on a shelf in that other company. I feel like I shit on them enough that I don't need to I don't need to keep shitting on them, but I feel like he was silenced for so long that when he got here and got that freedom and let his potential speak, he has become something of great sights. Like, I love when he's on. I love it. Promos, matches, everything. He's great. I think he's in a great position. I hope this only propels him even further. I mean, I really, like I said, you guys touched on everything. It's been a joy. It's been absolutely entertaining watching them.
You know, I don't really know if they're in emergency mode though. Like, obviously, like a quick change had to be made, but I don't know if it's emergency mode just because AEW is so deep that
they're so stacked that it doesn't seem like emergency mode. So I will agree with that. Yeah, just a quick rearrange. But
their back was against the wall for like 5 minutes.
Exactly.
And then
Yeah, they had to be. It was a choice of like, okay, which guy have we built up to the point where that we think he can take this role? And I mean, you could pick a couple of guys. You know, you could maybe you could have thrown like Lance Archer in there or something. And I
Oh
don't
my
think
god,
anybody would have.
that's that's so funny you said Archer, because I was literally gonna say, thank God they put Miro and not Lance Archer, because now that Miro, no, I like Lance Archer, but Miro being in the spot, we keep saying like, I don't know who's gonna win this match now. If Lance Archer was in this match, there's no doubt whatsoever who's winning the match.
Yep.
I agree.
Now it's like, I really don't know. Like, it could go either way.
Yeah, I agree. I was just the first name that popped into my head where it still would have been like what felt like a legitimate match. You know,
Yeah.
like he's built to that point where he that it would work. I do agree that Miro is the best choice though, because you're right. It is very up in the air, and it's going to be a good match, I think. And just to end with a little bit of levity here, just to lighten things up. I mentioned this in our group chat. I absolutely love the fact that in kayfabe, Miro has not been home to see his wife since he lost the TNT title. What was that, like last month?
and it's even better too when you realize that Miro was off TV until he came back to replace Mox. So this man has just been wandering around mad at his god for weeks on end.
I like to think that he's been in a cave this whole time.
Well, I thought he had a couple backstage promos. Not promos, vignettes, but
yeah, he had the vignettes, but he hasn't been in the arena in who knows how long. Like, at least within kayfabe, he hasn't been in the arena.
Yeah.
And if, like, again, delving into like the real stuff, they had to fly him in real quick apparently as the replacement for Mox. Like, they needed to bring him in, I think, almost like the day of. So I want to believe he's just been wandering around aimlessly trying to feel worthy to be with his flexible wife.
I do miss those jokes too. But I will say his promo tonight was very, very good, and it's made me even more hyped for this match than I already was. But that's for a different video, which will be coming out shortly. We will be doing a full gear prediction video. I don't know if it's going to be out before or after this one, but it'll be somewhere on our YouTube channel. So please check it out, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out our social media pages, which once again, I do believe our good editor will put right up here somewhere. So thank you for that. So for Chad Big Bad Johnson, James Gisanti, and Danny Hernandez, I'm Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Market Down Podcast.